That's like having some rando living in your house, making $20,000 a year, and then giving it to you whenever you leave. What's going on, team? You may have heard that you are due $600 for the stimulus check as part of the COVID relief bill. What's the best way to spend this money to make it work for you so you can crush it in your finances? Stick around and I'll give you 3 ideas you won't regret. First, let's talk about garbage ways people spend their money, especially when they get a windfall. Maybe they receive some inheritance, maybe they won the lottery. Actually, side note, did you know that people who win the lottery, 9 times out of 10, they're bankrupt within 5 years? Why is that? You have all the money in the world, and yet you go bankrupt. Well, it's because that good financial management is actually not something that you can be given, it's something that you have to learn. Just because you give someone money doesn't mean they're gonna know how to use it to continue to develop wealth. Well, the same thing is true with stimulus checks. You know, I have so many friends that get tax returns or stimulus money or whatever it is, and they spend it on complete, utter garbage. It's not gonna help them in life. It's not gonna allow them to leave a legacy or live debt-free or enjoy the things that they really wanna do for the majority of their life. They're always gonna be struggling because they don't know how to manage money. So what are some terrible ways that you can spend your money? Well, I think anything that would be categorized as an expense would be a mistake to spend your stimulus check on. So what exactly is an expense? And today I'm gonna be comparing it to another category, assets. So expenses are things where you spend your money on and you don't get anything in return. Maybe you do for like the temporary. For example, you might buy some great food, you go out and eat, and it's like, oh, that's so enjoyable, and then you just crap it out the next day. That was kind of an expense, right? It's not something that stuck with you for very long. An asset, though, is something you might purchase or you might invest in that's actually gonna give you money in the long term. So the difference between an expense and an asset is that an asset is something you buy that gives you more money back, as opposed to an expense, it's just throwing your money at something that you're never gonna get back again. So let's talk about assets. Now, just because it is an asset, that doesn't mean that it's a good investment. You have savings accounts with, I think on average it's 0.05% is your return you're gonna get back on that. You know that the inflation rate is roughly 1.2%, and here coming up very soon, they're going to adjust that again. Well, you better believe that since we've injected hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy, that I don't think inflation's really gonna come down. Now, if you don't know what inflation is, basically it means that the more currency you have, the less worth it has. This is a basic principle that every elementary aged kid understands because they probably collected Pokemon cards. So you had like your Charizard, which is super rare. Well, that might be worth a lot, but why? Because it's very rare. But then you have like your common cards, right? They're not really worth a lot. Why? Because everyone has one. And so that's how inflation works with currency. You can print more and more money, but that doesn't mean that that money is going to be more valuable, and in fact it goes the opposite direction. It becomes less and less valuable. There's been societies that have actually had currency worth less than toilet paper, and so they ended up using their bills as toilet paper, which is quite sad, and a totally different topic for another day. So let's talk about how do you beat inflation. 1.2% is roughly what inflation's at, so we need investments that beat that. Well, that's not savings accounts. That is certainly not CDs, right, at banks. I think CDs are about like 0.65% right now. That's not that great. So I'm gonna talk today about 3 different investments that you can participate in, 3 different assets that you can either buy or invest in to grow your net worth. Okay, number 1 is extremely obvious. This would be the stock market. Now, the stock market historically always goes up, right? Even whenever we've had depressions or recessions in the past, it goes up. You've even seen this past year during the pandemic that, you know, around March, April, it plummeted. But what has it done since then? It's gone back up. So people have been optimistic that the market has a chance to come back, that jobs will come back as a vaccine comes out. The stock market is full of people that fear. It's such fear-based thinking. These aren't people that live on faith, right? So something newsworthy happens and they go, oh my gosh, that's gonna be terrible. Let's sell. And the stock market goes down. But it gets to a certain point where people start saying, you know, maybe that wasn't the most rational thing because that company is still worth something. Or maybe another piece of news comes out like a vaccine, right? And they're like, oh man, we need to buy. And it's just gonna go back up. Historically, it's always grown. And that's if you average out like the last several decades, right? You're gonna have periods where it falls, but it comes roaring back. So what are some good investments for stock? You only got $600. You might be saying to me, well, there's not a lot I can buy with $600. Well, this past year, I actually bought a share of Tesla. And guess what? I bought it at around $600 and I was able to sell it at around $1,000. So I made $400 clean right there. That was an asset that I purchased, because when you buy stock, you're literally buying a piece of a company, right? So you actually own part of that company. It is an asset. You are actually providing jobs for people that work for the company by doing that. So it's actually a wonderful way to participate in the capitalist system. You make more money, the employees make more money of that company, the other stockholders make more money, and yes, Elon Musk makes a buttload of money. But you know what? Single stocks, they're very difficult to make money at because they go up and down, they fluctuate all the time. Once again, based on fear-based thinking. And if you're not a stockbroker, if you have a normal job, you don't have time to sit on your phone all day and watch a stock line go up and down and figure out, okay, this is when I need to buy and this is when I need to sell. I have a buddy that does that. He's very wealthy from it, but it's sort of a boring job to have. For most of us, we just want to be able to invest our money in something and then have sort of a quasi-guarantee of getting money back out. Well, if you're this kind of person, which is literally most millionaires in America, fun fact, by the way, 1 in 30 people you meet in America are millionaires. That's crazy. You're walking down the street, you meet 29 people. They're not millionaires. That 30th one is a millionaire. That's a subject for another time, but it is a crazy fact about the society we live in. So how are those millionaires making their money? A lot of them make it from their 401k, where they purchase mutual funds. So what's a mutual fund? The difference between a single stock, like buying a share of Tesla, and purchasing in a mutual fund is the mutual fund is hundreds of thousands of stocks. So if you put $10 in it, you're not gonna just get one share of a stock. You're actually going to get pieces and slivers of shares of hundreds and sometimes thousands of companies. So what does this do? It means that as the general stock market rises or falls, you're going to either make or lose money. And it gives you the peace of mind that if one of those companies in your portfolio dies, well, most of your money is not in that one company. It's spread out over hundreds or thousands of companies. So it's a very safe bet that you're not going to lose all of your money. The stock market, kind of on average, it goes up about 10% a year. Dave Ramsey likes to say 12%. I think 8 to 10% is more conservative. Either way, whichever number it is, 8 to 12, anywhere in there is better than inflation and far better than a savings account or a CD. All right, number 2 is a great category, and it is how so many people have garnered their wealth over time, and that is real estate. Real estate is an excellent investment. In general, real estate, just like the stock market, almost always goes up. So what are some real estate items you can look at putting your $600 into? I think the number one for my generation that you should be looking at is your own home. Now, a lot of my generation prefers to rent, and that's okay. Rent, though, is an expense. It's literally money you're throwing at someone else's asset. You are renting a building that someone else owns, and you are paying for that building for them, which means they're the ones that are going to garner the wealth, not you. But renting is fine. Lots of people have to rent for a certain amount of time in their life until they can save up enough money to get a down payment on a home. I would say that should be a goal for you. Why? Because real estate can grow your net worth like crazy. And in fact, here's a little personal testimony. The first home I bought was a townhome. It actually went up about $60,000 between the time I bought it and sold it, which means the whole time I was living there, it was like my home was working for me. It made me $60,000 in the course of 3 years. That's like having some rando living in your house, making $20,000 a year, and then giving it to you whenever you leave. So what did I do with that $60,000? Well, after paying my realtor for selling the home, I actually took it and I bought some land. That's another kind of real estate. And that land I bought last year has already risen in value by $5,000. I'm just sitting there. I'm just going about my business. This land is making money. That is the power of real estate and its ability to generate wealth by merely existing. So at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, James, you're an idiot. I only got $600. How am I gonna buy a house with $600? Well, I never said that you could buy a home with $600, but that $600 can go to your down payment in order to buy a home. So this is actually the category that I'm going to be personally putting my stimulus check in. I'm married, I have a wife, I have 2 children, although one of them was born this year. So I got $1,800, which is really great, and I'm actually going to invest all of that into the home that we're building. And I'm gonna basically buy toilets, which sounds really boring, right? Oh, I can buy a PS5 or I can buy toilets. But think about it this way, okay? For every dollar I put into my house that I don't take out in a mortgage, I make about $2 to $3 on that. So if I put $600 into my house, I'm gonna end up making about $1,800, in savings of what I would normally pay on my 30-year loan over amortization. That's huge. And then when you add on top of that, I'm doing a new build, it means that once it's completed, I get equity out of it. So that's the difference between the cost of me building it and the value of the home. And I think right now it's about a multiplier of 1.33%, or I get about 33% of what I put in. So not only am I making about $2 to $3 for every dollar I put in savings on my mortgage, but I'm also making about 33% extra for every dollar I put in. I mean, that's huge wealth gains from a simple $600 I shove into real estate. But real estate is not my favorite investment type. And in fact, number 3 that I'm gonna talk about today is, and that would be investing in yourself. Now, one of the things that my uncle told me when I was really young that really stuck with me was, James, never be afraid to invest in yourself. Basically, no one else is gonna do it, so you need to do it. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean go get a pedicure, a manicure, or a massage. It doesn't mean, oh, let's just invest in things that make me happy and blah, 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 blah. That's not what that means at all. Really, what my uncle was saying was, if you have your own entrepreneurial endeavors, you need to put your own money into it, because no one's gonna believe in that thing more than you do. So I do video production, which means I have to buy cameras and lights and all kinds of crap just to make videos. Well, for me personally, investing in myself would be investing in that business, which might mean I buy lights. I really like this category because these things technically are expenses, but you are manipulating and using them to somehow make you more money and grow your net worth. So what is it you do? What is your side hustle if you have one? If you're fully employed, I would recommend, and we'll do a video on this later, that you have a side hustle. That's something that you can do to make money very quickly if you need it. If a bill is due or an emergency happens, you need to make money very quickly. Well, you kind of need to have your own entrepreneurial endeavor. That is the beauty of America anyways. After all, we're a nation of entrepreneurs. So what does that look like for you? I mean, if it's my wife, she has done, side jobs like making cake pops. So it might be materials for baking. Or she's also a cosmetologist. So it might be purchasing some new shears so she's better at cutting hair. Whatever it is, whatever your side hustle is, don't be afraid to use some of this stimulus money or all of it on buying an asset that's going to then help you make more money. So whatever you end up deciding to do with your stimulus check, I hope you spend it in a way that's gonna help you crush your finances. Now, you may not be in a position to invest in anything. You may not be in a position to buy an asset, and in fact, you might be in a lot of debt. That would be the first step to do. And if I were you, I would throw that $600 right on your debt, whatever is your smallest debt first, and then work your way up to paying off the largest one, because that's gonna give you the financial freedom to, in the future, buy assets to grow your wealth. But right now, you're starting off at a deficit, at a negative, which is okay. Everyone does that. Everyone who graduates college does that, but you want to get out of that zone and move to a point where you can start generating wealth and become one of those 1 in 30 millionaires that are walking around in our society day to day. I hope this video helped give you some ideas on how to spend your stimulus check. If you want to see more content like this, please let us know in the comments below. Until next time, my name is James with Crush It TV.